We've always been willing to make that fight. They seem more reticent than we are. But I feel like, at some point in their life, they're going to fight.
This is Jonathan Agger, fifth Pro Boxing Fans, joined by top manager David Mcwater here in London. You've got Brandun Lee on the card this weekend. First of all, David, how are you enjoying your time here in London?
Oh, it's great. It's been wonderful. I love London. My sister lived there for years.
So Brandun, thought to be one of the top US guys, prospects. Talk to us about, signing with Frank Warren, because I think a lot of people were a bit surprised, but yeah, talk us through it.
Well, I think he's a world champion walking around without a belt, and he's only 25 years old, so a top prospect, and we're just very excited about him. And we know that Queensberry seems to be the future of boxing right now, so why not put the best kid with the best company?
We've seen, Frank Warren dealing in Saudi Arabia. He's got a better relationship with Matchroom now, so those fights can happen. Was that part of the reason to team him up with Frank?
Yeah, absolutely. We really think that they're making the right moves and that they're in the middle of things. And I also think it's a company that is growing and maturing. We were very impressed with George, Frank's son. We're just impressed by them as a whole.
In terms of what UK fans can expect from Brandun, he seems like a massive puncher. What are they in store for?
He's a very big puncher. He's a skilled boxer also, but yes, he's definitely a big puncher. He's got a ton of discipline. He's an impressive kid. He's got great intellect. He's not going to get outsmarted in the ring. So I think English fans are going to love him. I think fans all over the world are going to love him, which is another one of the nice things about Queensberry. We believe they're going to be all over the world in the coming future.
We were speaking yesterday about some of the other people in your stable. Talk about Khail Co, rising up in the light heavyweight division. What did you make of his performance on the Ennis card?
Khail Co, yeah. No, we love Khail. He's got as much physical talent as any athlete I ever signed. And he's another one. I think he's a world champion walking around without a belt. And I feel confident Eddie will get him that belt within a year.
He said he wants Joshua Buatsi now. Is that a fight, do you think, that can happen, or is that maybe a few fights down the line?
Well, Buatsi's got his own problems with Willie Hutchins. But yeah, would we fight the guy that won that? Probably. I co-manage him with Keith Connolly, so Keith and I would be in talks about that. But there's nobody in the world he can't beat.
And talk to us about Teofimo Lopez. Defended his belt against Claggett last time out. There's been talk of Brian Norman Jr. fight. What can you tell us?
To me, Teofimo's better than he's ever been. I thought the Claggett fight was absolute brilliance. He knew the guy was going to keep coming no matter what, and he and his father came up with this game plan that was brilliant to force him to the ropes and off balance. Brian Norman has been talked about. We're also talking about some major pay-per-view events that we would like to get. He's game though, and he would sooner or later we're going to move up to 47. So winning a belt that's in the house right now would be great. But we're also looking at doing a couple fights, maybe still at 140. We're unclear exactly where we're going. Opportunity is going to dictate a lot of that.
Obviously, I know he's more at 35, but Gervonta Davis is always a name that gets talked about. He was there apparently talks with Loma, but that fight's not happening. Maybe Shakur. Is there a possibility you could speak to his team and maybe make that fight?
We've always been willing to make that fight. They seem more reticent than we are. But I feel like, at some point in their life, they're going to fight. I can't imagine before Teofimo retires that he doesn't fight everybody. He only wants to fight the best guys. And so sooner or later, he's going to fight all of them. He's already fought Loma and Taylor when, they were linear champs. So there's nobody he won't fight.
Yeah. And, in terms of, like you said, 47 is in the pipeline. How long do you think he has left at 140?
It's really up to him. He's such a remarkable athlete. He can do things that mortals just can't even imagine. If you invented a new sport, Teofimo would be the best at it in a few days. But so if he wants to stay at 140, he can and will. If he doesn't, he'll move up. I mean, part of this for him is also the chase for glory. He really understands history of the sport, and that's why being the linear champ at 2 weights meant a lot to him. But being world champ at 3 weights would mean a lot.
So, when can fans expect him back in the ring?
We hope before the end of the year. Yeah, we're looking at dates before the end of the year.
And give us a bit of an insight of just being a boxing manager in general. How do you pick up the talent? How do you spot someone like a Teofimo Lopez?
Well, Teofimo was hiding in plain sight. He won the U.S. Golden Gloves when he was only 17 years old, and then he won the Olympic trials at only 17. So he was there. If people were doing their research, they would have seen him. And that's what I do. I go to all the amateur tournaments, and I really scout these kids and pay attention to who they are. And eventually they realize that makes you a more authentic choice, and they sign with you.
And then, fans always say, some fighters are scared of fighting other fighters. How much of the business of boxing do you think prevents certain fights happening, and how much is it mainly to do with money?
90% of it is business. The idea that the old guys wanted to fight each other and these new kids don't is hooey. I mean, not just my kids, but I've been around kids like Shakur and all these kids, these young kids that come out, and they all want to fight everybody. I mean, these kids are not backing down. They make big fights all the time. Teofimo, like I said, he's already fought Loma. He fought Taylor. We were dogs in Vegas in both of those fights. The Brian Norman kid, who's 23, just fought and won his title against my kid Santion when he was an 8-1 dog in Vegas. These kids want to make fights. It's the businessmen that screw it up, not the kids.
Is it, do you feel like when you're negotiating, is it, the promoters that's difficult, or, is it the networks? Behind the scenes, what holds stuff up?
It's not necessarily the promoters or the networks, it's the arrangements between the promoters and the networks. Because everybody's got exclusives now, it just gets a lot harder to put a big star, whose network are you going to be on, right? They both have an exclusive. And so that's what makes it really difficult to get the big fights done. And I think it's unfortunate. I don't think the networks should do exclusives. I think they should book their fights to the best promoter for that particular, who can bring me the best show. That's what should be on TV.
And, just lastly on this, what would you say is the toughest part of being a manager, and what's the most enjoyable part?
The toughest part is definitely weigh-ins. They're exhausting. The most exciting is, when your guys do something great and you share in that moment. I enjoy being around true greatness. I've been around a lot of great people in my life, like real great, actual world champions at things. And that's exciting to see people that are the best in the world at what they do. And when that opportunity happens, like when Teo beat Loma, standing in that ring with him, that was a thrill that'll last me the rest of my life and will keep me managing guys for another 10 years. If nothing good ever happened again, that alone would have kept me going for 10 years.
And, you work with all the promoters. Do they differ in how they sort of conduct the business? Is there one promoter you might enjoy working with better than others, or is it business?
I mean, yeah, they're all a little bit different. Obviously, in a lot of ways, Top Rank is the easiest to work with in America. But they're all different, and they're all great. And finding a kid the right promoter is a little bit like finding the right wife, right? And so the biggest thing really is, does this promoter love this kid, or are they taking him because I said he's good? And I want him to love the kid. I want him to believe in him. So that's the hardest part. Not every promoter is the best for every kid. I mean, there are instances. Normally, I would talk to Top Rank first about most kids, but there are certain kids I won't talk to Top Rank first about because I don't think that's the best home for them. They're going to get lost, or maybe it's a weight class Top Rank doesn't care about. So then you go to somebody that does, work in that area and will love your kid.
Just lastly, you said you've been around Shakur. Obviously there is talk that he might fight Tank next. How would you think that fight would play out?
I mean, obviously everybody thinks Tank will win, I guess, but I never underestimate Shakur. He's as smart an athlete as I've ever seen. That whole class that came out, I mean, there was Teofimo and Shakur and Gary Russell and Boots Ennis. They all came out in that 2016 class, and those kids were all amazing. And Clarissa. I mean, it was just an amazing U.S. class, and those kids. Boots is another one. Boots is as smart as any kid I've ever met, and his emotional maturity is off the charts. At 17, he was emotionally a well-developed grown man, and you never see him act silly or stupid or immature. Those kids are highly competitive and very amazing. I'm not saying Tank's not. I'm just saying he'd have his hands full with Shakur. I mean, I'd almost think Shakur might be a favorite there.
David, appreciate your time. I know the weigh-in's about to start. Your guy Brandun Lee is about to weigh in. But yeah, appreciate it. And you've got Nathan Lugo out next week as well.
Yes, Nathan Lugo, watch for this kid. He's as good a prospect as I've ever signed in my life. He's really special.
Brilliant. We look forward to seeing him on the LA card. Thanks, David.
Thank you.